Here we go. We're live. Yay. Good morning. Good morning. And it is
Morning.
good morning.
Good morning. It's good morning for me too. For once, we're on the same part of the day.
The same part of the day. Yes. And we're on a new time slot.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see how that works. Brad,
Yeah.
what time is it for you?
It's 10 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, so you're in
Here.
Eastern time, just like me.
I am on Eastern time.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
excited to dig in with you both.
Absolutely. So I'm going to introduce you to our audience so that they know who is joining us today. And then we can just start digging into this really, really interesting topic. I cannot wait to hear all about it. Brad Ritter is one of the world's leading experts on performance. He's the author of the best-selling book, School of Grit, Unlock Your Potential Through Purposeful Adversity. After graduating from Kokoro camp in 2015, he wanted to help people take control of their lives and get unstuck, which led him to create the School of Grit. He's above all a husband, father, brother, son, and friend. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you. Thanks for the awesome intro there. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So can you just maybe tell us a little bit more about you? I mean, that's kind of like really the surface level, because I know you're a lot deeper than that. And this whole idea around School of Grit, and what really kind of inspired you to look in that particular direction?
There's a lot there. So how much time do we have? I can go as deep as you want.
Well, I know. We got about an hour, right?
Okay, cool.
So let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning, right? I'm an open book, so feel free to throw any questions you got my way or interrupt me. But as the bio said, I mean, I'm a family man first and foremost. I was raised that way. I was very fortunate to come from a loving family. My parents are still married. They've been together almost 50 years now, which you kind of hardly hear that anymore, it seems like, these days. And so very fortunate for that. I was the oldest of four as a child. So I think naturally I had this sort of, just being the oldest, people looked up to you. I was the protector of my brothers and sisters, so on and so forth. And, I kind of did all the right things. I didn't get in a ton of trouble. I mean, I certainly did things I'm not, I would never do again. And I tell my kids not to do. So let me just throw that with a grain of salt. But I was fortunate. Someone must have been looking out above, because there was many times I should have gotten in trouble and didn't, which I count my lucky stars for. And I just kind of like all American kid, born in the Midwest, played sports. I played baseball through high school, and then kind of had this opportunity. When you graduate high school, it's, at least when I was being raised, my dad instilled upon me was, you can go three ways. You can go to college, you can learn a trade, or you can join the military. That was it. That was my three options. And I was this close to joining the Army with my best friend, Josh Brown, who's actually deployed right now in Kosovo, and he'll be back in about a month. But I chickened out, man, at the last second. It really, I did. I was like, no, not going to do it. College is my path. And so I went that route. Yeah. And so that's a little bit about going way back to childhood.
And so what happened after college then? How did this School of Grit come to be?
Okay. So fast forward, graduating college, I just kind of had this, call it ego, I think. And I had a hard time getting a job, man.
You have an ego?
Yeah. It was 2002. Yeah, 2002. And I thought, man, I got this college diploma. People are gonna want to hire me, and it wasn't anything like that. I couldn't get on. Everywhere I heard it was you know, you need experience. You need experience. I'm like, well, how do you get experience unless someone
Right.
takes a shot at you, right?
It's a catch
Yeah.
22,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so I remember my first year out of college, I worked 2 jobs. I worked at FedEx, the graveyard shift, because I needed insurance. So I'd work from like midnight to 3 or 4 a.m. And then my day job was an internship doing inside marketing for a marketing research company. It was like an 8 to 5, sit in a cube and just making phone calls and sending emails. And it was the most boring job I ever had in the world. I mean, I was falling asleep in my cube because I wasn't sleeping much anyway, because I was working at night.
Yeah.
And after about 9 months of that, just being, you know, pissed off at the world and stuff, thinking the world owes me, you know, I got a lucky break and someone took a chance on me, and I got like my first, I guess what we'd say, real job, full-time career. And I worked at a company called Xerox. You may have heard of them. Pretty big copier company at the time. Sort of cut my teeth into sales there. So that was like my early 20s. And I'm mentioning that because it's not like School of Grit just happened. Mm-hmm. I dealt and still deal with all the same issues that we all do. You know, everybody you meet's fighting a battle you know nothing about, so to speak. So I was just fighting my own internal demons. And what led me to School of Grit, if you can fast forward from my early 20s to my mid 30s, was now I'm married, I've got a mortgage, I've got 2 kids, and it's like, what am I doing? Like, this is great. Like, it's a great life, but it's like, man, I don't know who I am anymore, though, because I've put my head down and focused on work and bringing in money, and have kind of lost sight of who I am in an individual. And maybe I never, to be fair, maybe I never really took that seriously, you know, the questions of like, who are you? What's your purpose? What's your passions? What are you here to do on earth? And I'll never forget it. I was 34. So I'm 43 at the time, but I was 34 and I was getting ready to go to work, and kids were gone. Actually, they were at a babysitter's because they were very young. My wife, she's a teacher. She was at her school, and I was getting ready to hit the road because I'm still in sales and a little bit of a road warrior at times. And those voices that I just mentioned really became loud inside my head as I was shaving. And I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I couldn't answer it. Like, man, what am I here to do? You know, am I just supposed to kind of work for the man forever? And then retire and go live in Florida or whatever. You know, it's like, I don't know if that sounds good, but like, how do you get there? So, you know what I did? I took because these are now popular now, which I think is great with corporate America. I actually took my own mental health day, believe it or not. I called in sick and just spent some time alone. And I did research. I researched online and went to Google, went to the interwebs there, typed in, you know, passion, purpose, all that stuff. And there was millions upon millions of hits, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So I spent the next couple of hours reading blogs, reading articles, you know, and after a couple of hours, I wasn't anywhere closer at all. In fact, I probably had more questions, which isn't a bad thing. But at least I was starting to listen to the voice in my head and not dismissing it. I was starting to take action on it, which you're going to see that come up a lot. Is I'm just big on taking action, even if it's just little things. So, excuse me, I'm a big fan of video and love using YouTube just to learn how to do things. So I actually used YouTube and typed in the same thing. I typed in, you know, power, passion, purpose. And actually within the top 10 of the hits, I'll never forget it. There was a lady who popped up. Her name's Angela Duckworth. And she wrote a book called Grit, and her TED Talk popped up. And I had seen TED Talks before, but this TED Talk changed my life. Like she was talking to me. And it's only about 6 minutes long, but it talks about grit, which, you know, I had heard that word, but I never really knew the meaning of it. And it has lots of meanings. It means different things to different people. But the interesting thing was, in her research, grit was the leading indicator of success in life. And she defines it as the power of passion and perseverance to achieve a long-term goal. And what's cool is she has a grit quiz or a grit scale you can take. It's 10 questions. It's maybe 2 minutes to take,
Right.
and you get instant feedback, and it'll tell you, quote unquote, how gritty you are based on a scale of 1 to 5. And so I took this grit scale and I scored a 2.2 out of 5. Oh yeah, I had that exact reaction, actually maybe worse, with a few like F-bombs and stuff, because I'm a pretty competitive guy by nature. Just
At least you thought you were, right?
At least I thought I was. But it was I thought there's no way that's possible. Like I must have missed a couple
Denial.
questions or something, right? Denial, right? So I went back through the questions, and it was me to a T, really. Like I was the type of person at that time that would start a project with good intentions, but never finish it. I would move on to the next best thing. I'd have shiny object syndrome. I mean, all you gotta do is look around the house and all the many projects left undone, right? If you need some backup there. And I thought, all right, maybe she's on to something, you know. Denial, I'm not gonna deny it. You know, the first step is to say you got a problem. Okay, I have a problem. I want to be grittier. You know, I've just discovered I'm not as gritty as I thought I was. Again, ego, right? Coming up.
Yeah.
And so I'm checking my ego at the door. And I thought, all right, I'll buy her book. So I bought her book and read it cover to cover. And it's pretty interesting. You can grow grit 2 ways. You can grow it from the inside out, and you can grow it from the outside in. An example of that would be, you know, taking some sort of, course or some sort of self-development lesson, something like that. Perhaps even hiring a coach, something along those lines.
Right.
Growing grit from the outside in involves, something else, like an event, a crucible, an experience. I thought, an experience. Because through this evaluation of my life, what I had discovered was that, at least in my own opinion, was that I had led a rather easy life compared to other people. I mean, as I explained, like my parents were married, still are. Came from a loving family, never had to fight for, food on the table, never had to worry about a roof over my head. We were middle class. I knew we weren't rich, but I knew we weren't poor because I knew the difference.
Yeah.
I specifically knew the difference. Friends came pretty easy. I never had to really apply myself to make, great grades. I just kind of got by, right? Made A's and B's, made teams and stuff like that. And I thought, that's it. I haven't pushed myself to see what I'm capable of. And I thought, how could I do that now though? I'm in my mid 30s and what do I do? So I went back onto YouTube, went back into the interwebs, and I thought, I'm gonna throw this out there and see what pops up. So I typed in world's toughest training, and up pops Kokoro camp, which was mentioned at the beginning in my bio. And Kokoro camp is a camp put on by former Navy SEAL commander Mark Devine. That's his brainchild. And it mimics Hell Week inside of Navy SEAL training. So inside of SEAL training, everybody goes through BUDS, which stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL. It's about 6 months. Inside of that 6 months, during one of the phases, there's about a week they call Hell Week, where there's no sleep and it's just constant. You could just call it abuse, basically. But it's physical, mental, emotional. I mean, you name it, right? With no sleep for a week. And what happens is, you might have 200 dudes, physical freaks, PT studs, captains of the football team, blah, blah, blah. And out of 200 people, you might have 40 make it at the end of that week. And what interested me was not that I wanted to be a SEAL. What interested me was the mental toughness that the SEALs had to get through something like that. Because to me, like, talk about pushing yourself to the edge and beyond. I thought, man, that's what I need. In my own crazy way, I was like, I need to be pushed that way. I need those agents of transformation in my life. I want that experience. So Kokoro Camp is designed to replicate that a little bit. I say loosely based on it because it's 50 hours, which is still a very long time. But it starts on a Friday, ends on a Sunday. They do feed you, but it's just constant. They call them evolutions. So you're being asked to do certain things the entire time. And what really got me to sign on the dotted line because you had to apply and you had to state why you were applying, what your why was behind going. What really got me to go was a video that I saw Mark deliver, and I still remember it pretty much word for word. He's addressing his a Kokoro class is in front of him, and this is for men and women, by the way. There's women that do this too, believe it or not, and they are just awesome. But he's addressing this class, and he says to them, because they're all, you got to think, you're there, you know what's coming. There's videos, you know you're gonna get beat down, right? It's not a matter of if, but when. So when it gets real, you know, you're standing in formation and you're like, what's about to happen? And now you got like, you know, your mentor, the guy you look up to, Mark, is delivering the message, and you're just on pins and needles. And he's looking out, and he says, the following words, he says, rejoice in adversity. Rejoice in adversity. How do we grow as human beings? It's through adversity. Warriors seek out the severest of schools in order to forge their character. And welcome to the severest of schools. And man, I got goosebumps and like the hair rose on the back of my neck. And I was like, yep, I got to do this, man. This camp's for me. So that's how I ended up at Kokoro camp. You know?
I got a quick question. Sure. Because I'm interested in that mindset. Like you said, you know, there's something that resonated with you, right? And there's something within you that said, whatever I'm doing right now can't continue. Right. And so, you know, it's like, you know, we talk about hitting rock bottom. And I know we in our pre-interview with you, you were saying, like, I really didn't have a rock bottom. I really didn't have and I love the term that you use, crucible, because that's one of Warren Bennis's, that was one of my favorite authors on leadership, you know, came up with that term. But you didn't have any crucible moments in your life at that point.
Right.
And to throw yourself into the dragon's den, I guess, you know, can you go back to that, where that defining moment was, where you said, you know what, I can't continue? And so to me, that's almost a glimpse of a bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I didn't have a rock bottom, which made the story, I guess, somewhat unique. Because a lot of times when you're talking to people, there is that rock bottom moment, and people explain. I just felt myself as a man. I just felt myself sort of unraveling. Like I'd lost touch with who I was. You know, I was going after money. Money was a big motivator for me. And I just thought, man, my principles are all out of whack. Like, I want my kids to, you know, I believe the best way to teach your kids is through action. And I thought, well, if I'm too scared to take action here, what am I doing? What am I teaching my kids here? You know what I mean? And there was many days, like I said, this has been built up for years. There was many years of just, man, I was doing everything I could to make as much money as I could for my family. And that involved me not being home a lot too. Because as I said earlier, I was a road warrior. Yep. And I thought, man, this isn't what I had envisioned. Like, I want to be around for my kids, number one. And then number two, is money important? Yeah, I'm not going to deny it. Yes, at least for me it is. But I live in Indiana. I don't live in California or, you know what I mean? So it's like the standard of living is totally different. So it's all relative. And I know how much I need to make in order to live a pretty comfortable life, you know? So yeah, I'd say that's a lot of what was going through my head, sort of building up to this. And I could kind of see that, crystal ball, if you will. Like, man, if I just keep going down this path, like health wise, I was a bag of bones, man. I wasn't working out like a lot. I used to, but I kind of gave that up. Why? I gave it up to work. And I'm like, that's just stupid. Because if you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was just a total mind shift around that. So and I ended up changing careers actually right around that time as well.
Okay.
What I love about what you just shared is, you know, I think what you're pointing to is something that oftentimes women talk about, how, you know, becoming a mother and having children completely shifts your reality, your view of life, right? and I don't hear men often talk about that, but the way I feel it shows up is in the way that you're describing it was showing up for you, like work, make money, support everyone, like feeling that the heaviness of this responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I also hear from you that when the shift happened, you actually shifted that responsibility into a more into a healthier way of looking at it, right? Well, I know I have this responsibility, but I want this responsibility to involve my presence with my children. I want to be a good role model. So that sense of responsibility, I think, is something that we carry as parents. We can't just get rid of it, right? It's the choice that we made as parents. But there's ways that we can go about it, and oftentimes I think in society we're just wired to look at it from this treadmill of making money and like work to support everyone, and we lose sight of who we are. And so what I'm hearing from you is that there was a moment where you just recognized that not only you weren't happy and fulfilled, but you also didn't know who you were, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And children oftentimes have the power to really sit us down and like ask these really important questions about ourselves, because I can really relate to the fact that when I asked that to myself, I realized that I had never asked that question before. I never really worried about figuring out who the hell I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love what you just shared, because it sounds like maybe without reaching a really massive rock bottom, somehow there was this pivotal moment that really took that need to be, a role model, to deliver for your kids, if you want to, frame it that way, and just shifted it into a healthier way to do that.
Yeah, what you reminded me of is, I agree with everything you just said, by the way. As I stated earlier, when you apply to go to Kokoro camp, because there is an application, there's standards you have to make. They don't just accept anyone. You have to hit minimum standards physically. Like there's so many push-ups and stuff you got to be able to do in order to even make it. And it was 50 push-ups in 2 minutes, 50 sit-ups in 2 minutes, 10 pull-ups, dead hang, and run a mile in, I think it was 8.5 minutes. Oh, and then 50 air squats. You have to be able to do all that in 2 minutes with a 2-minute rest. And if you can't, you can't even get there, right? That's the starting point. But bigger than that, though, was you had to fill out an essay, which I love. I love this about their application process is, why are you going? What do you hope to discover here? And I discovered my why by writing it down. And that was to become the best version of myself for my family. Ultimately, that's why I'm doing this is, I want to break myself and rebuild and learn who I am through adversity. But once I figure out who I am, I want to be of service and be better, be a better dad, be a better, father, be a better friend, be a better coach, you name it, and it all starts from, it's within. You can read about it all you want, but at the end of the day, you got to do it. You have to get out there and actually do it and experience it, because it will change you. And this was life-changing for me. Like, I'm still talking about this. Is something I did 7 years ago, and the book would never happen without it. School of Grit would never be here without it. I think a lot of times in your life, you can point to like, man, that's where it all started right there. Like, if you start retracing your steps, it's like, it's because I hate to even think like what my life might be like if had I not done that camp. I don't know.
It would be different.
It would be different. Would it be better? Maybe. Could it be worse? Yeah, it could absolutely be worse. I wouldn't be here talking to you all right now. I can probably guarantee you that. But I thank myself for once in my life, betting on myself and going all in. Because that's what I did, man. Once you signed, it was like I was training like a man possessed for 6 months. I ate it, slept it, breathed it.
See, that's
I was not going to be denied, man. I saw myself being successful and graduate. I mean, trust me, man, I lived it. And people thought I was crazy for doing it. Absolutely
well, in truth, that's probably, because, look, when everybody has a separate reality of what they of their life, kind of a thing. And I was just reflecting back on that first moment of decision that you had earlier in your life about the military. And you said like you got chicken, and and I'm just using that was your words.
I was actually chicken shit. I don't know if I can cuss here, but that's what I prefer to use. I was chicken shit.
Well,
man.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But I mean, I even reflect on so many other moments, and you talk about the crucible moments, the defining moments of our life, right? Where they could have gone either way, and out of our thinking in the moment, we choose what appears to be a more safer path.
The comfort,
right?
Yeah, you choose comfort. You choose where your safety is, and I think that's natural for people. Our brain's wired that way, right?
Yeah.
Our brain wants to keep us safe.
Yeah.
By nature.
Yeah.
So we have to. It sounds crazy, but you have to. It's counterintuitive. You almost got to tell it, no, I need to do. I mean, as long as it's safe for you, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if you got that voice, and as soon as anything I walk into, and I'm like, damn, I'm kind of scared of this, or I'm like, cool, I need to investigate that a little bit more, because maybe that's what I should be doing. Like I said, as long as it's going to provide growth and safety. I'm not talking about throwing yourself out in the harm's way and being stupid with it, but like public speaking is a great example. A lot of people are afraid to talk publicly, as am I. But I gave a speech last week it was fitting. I gave it on grit and fear, and it was on the anniversary of D-Day, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. And I'm always a little nervous and stuff when I get up in front, but you know what? Just the feeling I have afterward, and when people come up and they talk, I'm like, that's it, man. If I just listen to that voice because I'm scared, everybody's fearful of something. Had I never done that, I'm not growing.
It's for me, it's the definition the difference between courage and being fearless, because I think in some ways, fearless can be, you kind of throw common sense out of the way, like you're doing things, jumping out of perfectly good flying planes, things like that. But but courage is doing things, taking action in spite of the fear that you're having.
Yes.
So that's my that's how I interpret it anyways.
Dude, you nailed my speech last week. So I was telling people, this is so fitting, this is being brought up. I was talking to about 30 realtors in this room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I'm not here because I'm not scared. Like, I still have fears just like anybody else. But I was like, what I wanted to do is I wanted to change their mindset around fear. And what I told them was this, and you'll get it, because I already know you operate this way. Is I said, I don't think courage can exist without fear. If you think about it, courage can't exist without fear. And I gave an example about, my wife's deathly afraid of snakes. I'm not. And, if we're walking in the woods and a snake pops by, she has done this. She cuts out, she's gone. And I stand my ground and like protector mode, right? Well, I say, well, am I showing courage there? I would argue no, because I'm not scared of snakes. But if she would have stood her ground, is she showing courage? Hell yes, she is, because she's afraid. So by that very definition, those who are the most fearful have the opportunity to be the most courageous. It's like, ooh, man, that's just a shift in mindset,
That's amazing. Yeah. It really is.
Excellent example.
Would you say that that's the base of how you coach people through? Tell us a little bit how you help people.
You can see the smile on my face. Yeah. Yes, I love figuring out what makes people uncomfortable or fearful, and then it's like, cool. Well, that's where we're going, because that's where the growth happens. So a really simple one that anyone can do is having that crucial conversation with someone, right? Could be a family member, could be a coworker, a boss, but man, you've felt this, for years or months or weeks, maybe it's been transpiring. You talk about it, and it's like, all right, well, talk to them about it. Or are you just going to let it fester and fester and fester until it blows up like a volcano next Christmas or whatever? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's pretty much what you just stated, Fatí, is that is a baseline of how I coach and work with people, is really examining them and figuring out, what makes them uncomfortable, what their fears are. And not that I'm putting them in harm's way, but they're going to get uncomfortable because that's where the growth happens. It's very easy just to, stay in that room or stay in that circle that you're comfortable with and never venture out, but you're not really growing. Then you're actually slowly dying. Isn't that what they say? Comfort's a slow death. If you really look at it.
Sometimes people have normalized their own discomfort, right? They sit in it's familiar and it's what they know, right? They become comfortable with the discomfort. And so even within our own discomfort, the only way to come out of that is to step into discomfort, right?
And you can do it every day. And we do it every day through whatever makes you uncomfortable or discomfort. Could be waking up early. Could be taking a cold shower. Starting a workout program if you haven't worked out in 20 years or whatever. But just doing something. Get you uncomfortable. Get you moving and grooving.
So what would you say that helps people create that consistency? Right, because you were talking about starting things and not finishing them, and shiny object syndrome and switching around and never seeing things through. What creates that for people in your experience?
I think accountability. I think it's hard. It's rare, and it can happen. And there's people who can hold themselves accountable, and they'll set goals and they'll accomplish them. But more often than not, I think it's having some sort of coach alongside you, some sort of mentor, some sort of guide, accountability partner, whoever, just someone who can check in and keep you honest. Because people will bullshit you a lot, I find, especially in coaching. But it's like when you really start digging in, it's like, okay, well, so you didn't do it. Okay, well, give yourself a little bit of grace for whatever that reason is, and let's move on and let's accomplish it. Let's stop not doing things just because they're uncomfortable, and I just find that people need that. Hell, I need that. I have my own coach, I'm such a believer in the craft. And if you think about it, I don't mean to make this like a coaching thing, but we've had coaches our whole lives. Hopefully your parents were around and were good mentors, but if they weren't, someone stepped in, perhaps a grandparent,
teacher,
a teacher. Absolutely. If you played sports, well, obviously those are coaches. They teach you how to play those games. Maybe you have a financial coach, financial advisor who can help you navigate and try to get to retirement. I mean, there's lots of coaches around. So it's like, why should it be any different when we're talking, as long as you're getting specific on what those goals are, you know what I mean?
Well, that's an interesting thing too, about the specifics or knowing your why, because remember, you had to write that application out for, why you want to put yourself into sort of punishment. And I'm being sarcastic, but there's a thing called, like when you're inspired, there doesn't seem to be any obstacles in the way, like, from my experience. And when I'm coaching and you give the odd homework assignment and things like that, and people are consistently not doing the thing, not doing the work, I often go back and I go, do you really want to change? Right. Like if you, I mean, obviously you hired me for a reason, but if you really wanted to change, you'd be doing it. Like you'd be inspired too. So I'm curious if you have any relationship between the link between being inspired and goals and actually doing the work. And if
I do. And I get this from, I draw on David Goggins for this. I don't know if you're familiar with David Goggins, but he wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me back in 2018. It's awesome. I highly recommend the audiobook if you haven't read it. But it makes sense. But basically he says, motivation is bullshit. Very rarely are you going to be motivated every day to go do something. When you first start a project, you're going to have that initial, like when I started writing the book, I was all in, man. You're right. No obstacles. After about a year of that, I was like, okay, actually probably even more, probably 6 months, not even a year. Right. And this took me 5 years, by the way. So it's discipline. that's going to get you there, not motivation. If you rely on motivation, you're going to fail. I love working out. Am I motivated to work out every day? No. There's lots of days I do not want to at all. I do not want to put my running shoes on. I do not want to put on my workout clothes. And lucky I have a workout gym in my garage. But it's like, I don't even want to go. And it's so convenient, right? You're thinking, well, it's in your garage.
Yeah.
I still don't want to do it because it's looking at me and I know what this is going to entail. But I've built that discipline to make it past that first initial, that first voice that hits me, that piece of energy to say, no, I need to do something. And every time, and I love using the working out example, every time I lace them up and I get into it, I start sweating. I'm like, man, thank God I didn't just lay in bed or sleep in, or I feel so much afterwards, I feel so much better. I'm like, thankfully I didn't listen to that voice, but it wasn't always like that. I mean, it takes practice, it takes discipline. And that's where I think having that coach or accountability partner or whatever can really help out. Cause it's like, hey, cause that's how I coach people is we have a private channel for communication. But it's like, send me a picture. What do you do? Or a video, or just check in, man. How are things going? And I'm sending them mine too. Cause that's the other thing. Like I practice what I preach. I'm not just telling you to do stuff. I'm doing it too.
I remember our interview. You were on a treadmill while we were talking.
I'm still on the treadmill. I just don't have it on. Yeah. So sometimes it's distracting on these things. So I'm on it. Yeah.
So, I love this piece of discipline. You're right, because the motivation can be there, but we can get challenged by it. What I found in my experience is that the discipline really needs to be there to really wire in that behavior for a while, right?
Yes.
And pushing yourself through the resistance in the moment. Because I'm like you, I work out regularly. I need it for my own mental, physical well-being. But I'm not always jumping out of my bed, running happy to go to the gym, right? There are some workouts I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I put myself through this. But then I'm always happy, right? And I always take myself back to that. What keeps me going to the gym, right? And yes, I think that discipline piece is very, very important. But initially, it wasn't like that. There was a lot of accountability. And there was a lot more effort that I had to make to actually stay the course so that this could become a part of who I am. Yeah. And so I would also argue that there's this shift of identifying with a person that goes to the gym. Like, I am an athlete. I am someone who works out regularly, right? But in order to become that, it's not just about motivation and inspiration. It's also the consistency and the discipline to do it every day.
Yeah, it goes back to why. Like, why am I doing this? And I do find sometimes it's a little bit easier, since we'll stick with the working out piece. It's a little bit easier to go if you're training for something. like if you're going to if you're going to go run a 13K or whatever. That's a reason that you might want to stick with it. What's hard is when you don't have those goals and you're like, well, why am I doing this? And here's another guy I follow, Pat McNamara, awesome dude, runs T-Max Inc. He's a former Delta Force guy. He says there's 4 reasons you should work out. 4 reasons. Number 1 is self-preservation, longevity. Looking good, feeling good, motion's lotion, that type of thing, right? It's good for you. It's good for your health. Number 2, the ability to save your life. The ability to save your life. Could you, if you got in a car wreck, could you pull yourself up out of the window? Could you pull yourself up over a fence? That sort of thing. Number 3, probably most important, the ability to save someone else's life. So when I'm working out with sandbags, and these heavy sandbags in my garage, I don't see them just as sandbags. These are my kids that I'm carrying to safety. Like, that's what I visualize. That's the fitness level. And then the 4th that he says, kicking someone's butt, basically. Being able to handle yourself. Like, in case, hey, if all else fails and you got to get physical with someone, it's like, it'd be kind of nice to know you can fall back on, your strength and your stamina and stuff. So that's Pat Max. I got that from Pat Mac. He's the man.
And that's all under the guise of survival.
Yes.
that's the context of survival is taking care of all those 4 particular areas. That's preservation of our species. That's what we do, right?
Yep.
That's what
Yep.
our body is there for.
Yeah.
We're living through this body that keeps us alive.
Yeah,
we
I mean,
need
you
to
got
take
2
care
legs
of
for a reason, use them.
Yeah.
Unless there's unless there's obviously a medical reason you
Yeah.
can't. And then even within that, there's certain things you could probably do. Not everyone, but more often than not, I mean, the majority of the population, yeah, we should be moving. And that's gonna.
Yeah.
It's not just the physical piece. Like mentally, it gives you a better mental space. It's a stress reliever. I mean, I kid you not. And don't underestimate walking. Walking's fantastic. My wife and I just walked this morning. We walked 4 miles together. It was wonderful. We got to talk. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm a big walker. Although the morning show has kind of caught me in between, but as soon as this is over, I'll be out with grabbing my dog, and we'll be going off for about 5Ks.
Oh, I just got a new puppy, man. What do you have?
Yeah. What's that?
I just got a new puppy. What kind of dog do you have?
I have a miniature schnoodle, which is a schnauzer and a poodle mixed together.
Oh, nice. That's
very,
awesome.
very, very good temperament.
Very cool.
Yeah. And what did you get? Now that
we got a sheepadoodle, full size. So full size sheepdog, full size poodle. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see the book on that one.
I'm not getting any dogs anytime soon.
I was holding on to that for years because somehow my daughter's 12, my son's 9.
Yeah.
They've wanted a dog ever since they were little.
Mm-hmm.
So this was definitely like a pressure situation, and it just the stars aligned, right? This breeder, actually we bought our neighbor's dog's brother because they were getting a second dog, and we didn't say we weren't adamantly against it, and we weren't like all in for it. It just kind of happened, and I love him. He's awesome. Got a really good temperament. So so far so good.
Yeah, no, it was a anyway, that's part of my story with the dog. But I want to get back to your story a little bit.
Okay.
So 5 years, right?
I want that book too.
So
it's coming your way, by the way. I'm sorry. I just got your address not too long ago. It's coming your way.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love the format. You're very good writer, actually. It's like having a conversation with you. I can almost like I'm in the room, in your living room there, and but I like the whole concept of packing your rucksack.
Mm-hmm.
Because throughout the book you talk about all the different things, and for people that are not familiar with rucksacks, I mean, that's what they give you in the military, right? They give you that's your whole survival kit is put in your rucksack, and I love the fact that throughout the book you've got different things that you would throw into the rucksack, and then you also got a bunch of different challenges for people to go through. So what was that experience? You said it took you 5 years. There was ups and downs and all over the place, and maybe you can help me with that a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. And thank you for the compliment. So I never really considered myself a writer until writing a book, but it's like, look, you can do it. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
So yeah, the process took 5 years. After I graduated Kokoro camp, I never intended on writing a book, but I remember the flight home before I slept 4 hours on the way home and woke up in Indianapolis from California. I literally took out a notebook. I still have the notebook, and I outlined everything we did that weekend from what I could remember. Because there was times when I was hallucinating and no sleep over 50 hours. It's like everything starts kind of going together at some points. But I kind of broke down the whole 50 hours into everything we had done, all the evolutions they made us do. I didn't touch that outline for probably a year. But what happened in that year was conversations kept happening like this, except it'd be with family members, friends. They'd heard I did this. They went, "What'd you do?" And then I would explain it, and they're like, "This is unbelievable." And then the more I gave that or told that story, it was the people I interacted with that actually got me to write the book, because they said, you should write a book about this. I'm like, really? They're like, yeah. I was like, no one's gonna want to listen to this or hear me. So what got me over the hump to really do it was one of the coaches I was working with at the time. had me do a legacy type exercise. So it started with an obituary. Sounds morbid, but you're right. You write your own obituary, how you want to be remembered, and then legacy, like what do you want to leave behind? I was like, I want my wife and kids to know all the lessons I learned at this camp, why I chose to do it, and all that stuff. And I thought, well, there's no better way to do it than to write a book about it. So it originally just started off as a manuscript that I was going to leave to them. I wasn't even going to publish it.
Oh,
yeah. And then it just kind of took on a life of itself. We talk about accountability. I was telling everyone that I was writing a book so that I knew the next time I'd see them, they'd be like, oh, hey, how's your book?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, I haven't written anything for 2 weeks or, whatever. But that was the way I was held accountable. So like anything else, though, this big, gnarly goal, I had to get into bite-sized chunks. So my goal was just to sit down every morning and write for 500 words. That was it. So that became my morning routine. I'd wake up early before the kids were up, and I would just put my coffee on, and I'd write. And I would literally handwrite 500 words, and then I would type it. That's how I would edit it. And it was up and down. I started off like a man possessed, like my hair was on fire for probably the first 6 months, but then got bored. And I was like, I'm going to take this week off. And then a week became 2 weeks. And then I literally took like a summer off once, I think, and didn't write anything because I was just done. And I was like, no, I got to grit, right? The definition of grit, achieving long-term goals. I got to get back in the game, right? I got to get back in the fight. So I had hired an editor, and that really helped me to, be tasked with timelines and things like that, and went through 2 or 3 major edits. And yeah, finally got what you see before you after 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears.
I love what you just pointed to. There's a couple of things that you pointed to. One was the, like running, you're really, really into it. Your head's on fire, and then you run out of steam, right? Which is something that it's
the motivation piece, right?
We've all done it, right? And we run out of steam, and then we just hit, I don't know, a block, a moment where we can't even look at it, right? And there's a break, right? And I think sometimes we get lost in like feeling guilty about it, and then we write it off. And oftentimes we can even turn around and leave it unfinished, right?
Right.
What I find in my experience that helps overcome that moment is to really see it as a healthy break. I just need a break, and I just need to pace myself a little differently. The next thing that I heard you say, because I can really relate to this, because it's kind of where I'm at a little bit, was that you hired someone to help you with something that, like someone who's an expert in this can help you do a little better, right? Because I feel like we somehow are like wired to think that we can do it all. There's a prize that we're going to get for doing it all and learning all these different jobs, frankly, right? Along the way, that people actually have these jobs for a reason, but somehow we have to become an expert in all of it, or there's no value in our accomplishment. So I love that you spoke about that. There is value in actually like, I'm going to do the important piece, which is like, what's the content of this book? And perhaps there's someone that can do a little better job than I can in editing this, or even if it's just in the form of a little help.
Asking for help is so underrated.
Right.
I struggled with that a lot. And that was one of the major lessons that I learned at the camp was when times get tough, take the focus off yourself and put them on others and try to help others out.
Interesting.
But then also not being afraid to ask for help when you need it, because there's something called pride that can get in your way, and pride's not good. It's pride has destroyed a lot of people's lives, unfortunately. So there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And guess what, people? Generally, people like helping other people. So it works both ways. So not only are you getting help, but the other person that's helping you feels good about themselves because they get to help you out with something.
That's
magic.
That's one aspect I wasn't thinking when you talked about the school. The SEALs school, like the Hell Week there, was because it looks like a very individual type of challenge, and it starts that way.
Right.
Did you feel that transformation towards the end? I know you said it was long and times you were hallucinating and things like that. But did you see that transformation between an individual effort to a team effort towards something?
Yes, 100%. It probably took us a full 24 hours before we learned that lesson. Because
Okay.
that is the major lesson that they're trying to teach you several things, but that's one of the biggest ones is
Okay.
that you can do more as a team than you can as an individual. So at the beginning, yes, everybody's showing up. They're all individuals. No one knows each other. And then they divide you into what's called boat crews. And that's usually based on height for a reason. Because if you're lifting logs above your head or you're lifting boats, like if you've got, I'm 6'2", if I got like some dude that's 5'2", it's not going to work so well. So they try to keep those boat crews based around height. But what you learn is being able to tap into the person on your left, the person on your right. And there's lots of evolutions that teach that. Log PT is one of them. So if you've got 5 dudes on a 300-pound telephone pole, you can lift that. You could lift that all day if everybody's putting out. But if one person gives up and now it's on the other 4, it's like your load just became a lot heavier, and you can tell when people are skirting around. Or one fun phase was ocean torture, where you go out in the ocean at night and you link arms, and as these waves are crashing upon you, the way you can stay together as a unit is I'm holding the person on the right, I'm holding the person on my left, and I'm only concentrating on those 2, not the wave coming at me. If you're not concentrating, that wave's just going to blast through you. As soon as that chain breaks, everybody's just gets splattered everywhere. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's what they're trying to teach is true teamwork. And that's what I loved about that camp, because there's other camps for sure, but a lot of those are more individual, let's say. And I wanted that team aspect, because I feel like that's what was missing in my life, was that real deep team bond and stuff. And actually that's what really drew me to the military was, being a part of something bigger than myself, of course, but then being a part of like an elite team. Right. Yeah. So great question.
Do you as a coach, do you work with organizations, teams, and things like that?
I do. Yeah. I primarily, I have a couple one-on-one clients, but most of my coaching is small group. Yeah. Okay. And then I've worked with companies as well. So yeah. Really enjoy that. Yeah.
I can see how you can bring that whole experience. Cause I mean, for me, like you said in the beginning, you can read all about it, and you can have a great piece of knowledge, and you can do a lot of quotes off a bunch of different authors and things like that. But when you've lived it, right. And this is what I love about your authenticity is you've experienced it, you lived it. And that's all you're really doing is sharing your experience.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep. And quite frankly, that's where my coaching's gone to, is I'm still living it, man. I think that's what my clients would say they love about me. Hopefully one of the things, besides my hair. They always comment about my hair, but anyway.
I'm totally jealous.
Yeah. Is like I'm training with them. Like I'm still on my journey. It's not like I've gotten to the top of this mountaintop and I'm just gonna rest in my laurels and retire. No. Heck no, man. The rent's due every day. Like I'm out there grinding. I'm out there still pivoting and going after things that scare me and all that good stuff. That's what I love about it in the small group, because then we get together and talk about that and help each other out.
I think that's what really truly makes a great coach in any kind of coach. Walk your talk. You have no business telling people what to do or guiding them through something you haven't put yourself through.
And there's no plateaus. Like there's no like this is a continuous journey. Like there's no, and we talk about goals and things like that, but when it comes to whatever you want to call it, human potential, self-improvement or whatever, like there's always being the best version of who you are today based on who you were yesterday, kind of. So there's always this constant thing, and you never arrive. So yeah, it is, until
it's a lifetime, man. Yeah, that's why I tell people, I'm like, this is a life. I tell people, I was like, what I teach you is it's a lifestyle, is what it is.
Yeah.
So, and it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But this train doesn't stop once we get going. There is no there. Like you said, there is no end game.
No,
really.
No.
Yeah.
And it takes courage as coaches to be the ones saying, listen, you're not doing the work. Do you still want to keep doing?
Mm-hmm.
Or just really, pointing to the fact that the person is avoiding or not really doing what they had committed to do, right? And sometimes that can get really uncomfortable. But that is where a true coach, a true effective coach shows up, right? It's not about pleasing or just, it's not just about motivational speeches and encouragement.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's about even it's much more about having the courage to say what's uncomfortable.
Well, yeah,
Right.
I could either be your mother, or I can be your friend, or I could be your coach.
Your coach.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And make you uncomfortable. at
Make you
times.
uncomfortable and
Yeah.
ask you those questions that really
Ask you to
sting.
come in.
Those that's where the magic's at. Like,
Yeah.
I can always appreciate a coach who can just interpret what's in front of them and just come up with that question or questions that really make you think. And they're not going to give you the answer; they're going to guide you, but you end up coming up with your own answer.
Right.
It's like without being prompted by that question, I would have probably never gotten there. On my,
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
That's
if it triggers you, good. There's
Yes.
something there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Lean into it.
So we're coming up to the top of our hour, and Brad, I this has been a real pleasure having this conversation with you, and to get to know you a little bit
Yeah,
better,
likewise.
and to understand a little bit what's between the words in this book, kind of a thing, right? Because there's so much. I say to people, it's not the words, it's what's between the words that's the important part.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for being open and with us here. And do you have some parting words of wisdom?
Ooh, parting words of wisdom. Yeah. So
Throw us a pearl.
there's a saying that School of Grit, me and my clients have come up with over time. And that is, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So what does that mean? That means day in, day out, are you making yourself better? Kind of like what you're talking about, Rick. Like, how were you yesterday? How are you today? Just try to be a little bit better than you were yesterday. That can be physically, mentally, emotionally, intuitionally, spiritual, whatever your jam is. Try to be just a little bit better, and do hard things. Go after that discomfort. That's where you need to be, because that's where the growth's going to come from.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah.
Well, so what's next on your agenda? Another book? Another course?
Well, today, let's see, it's almost 11 o'clock. My daughter tests for her black belt in Taekwondo in an hour. So that's
cool.
That's where we're going. Yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Family. Yeah. My son and I got ours 6 months ago, and she's the last one. So she's ready. So I can't wait to see her crush that goal and accomplish that. It's going to be so much fun. And then outside of that, putting on a live event in September. So I'm still in planning stages of that with insurance and what they will and will not cover, which I'm learning is quite a bit, but that's okay. We'll persevere.
Discomfort, Brad.
That's right.
Embrace it.
Sure,
uncomfortable part of business.
That's it.
Where is the live event going to be?
Camp Atterbury, which is in Edinburgh, Indiana, about 30 minutes south of my house. It's an active military installation, so it's going to be a overnighter. It's going to be 2 nights, 3 days, all inclusive. So your lodging's there, your food, and I've got a cadre, a group of coaches that we're gonna put you into some purposeful adversity, and we're gonna teach you some cool tactics along the way, and we're gonna explore ourselves too. Like, who are you? What are you here to do? All that good stuff. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Incredible.
Are you gonna keep them up all?
There will be iterations of this camp, but for this is the first one. No, there will be sleep. There will be sleep. Yeah, at least this one. Yeah.
All right.
If you want to reach out to Brad, I put all the links in the chat. I'm sure through all of those links, you'll find a way to find out about the new live event when it comes up. Keep us posted. Let us know. Stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure having you on, Brad. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Fatí and Rick. Thank you so much. Really appreciate this time. A lot of fun. Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you guys in the future. So
you betcha. Thank you very much. And if you share our links, if you like this broadcast, make sure you subscribe and like the posts. Make comments afterwards. If you have any questions or comments to Brad, we'll make sure that he gets them at a later date. So, Fatí, see you next week.
Until next time.
All right. See you guys. Appreciate it.